Good day, everyone. I'm Benita Olivier, a professor at a university and a supervisor to many PhD students. Over the years, I've been asked quite frequently, how do I find a home for my precious research paper? Which journal do I submit this research paper to? So I decided to make a video on that. So at the end of this video, you're going to know exactly the steps that I recommend to my PhD students and emerging researchers that I mentor. The steps to take to select the most appropriate journal for their research. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, share it with somebody that can benefit from it, and leave me a comment. What do you do differently? What else would you consider when selecting your ideal journal? Let's dive in. After months or years of rigorous research, your manuscript is polished to perfection and you're ready to share these groundbreaking findings with the world. But the reality hits and you wonder, how will you choose amongst the thousands of academic journals out there, and which one will be the right fit for your research? Now, a lot of guidance out there is all about the writing of the manuscript and very little about finding that ideal journal for your manuscript. Now, why is it important to find the right journal? Or rather, what happens if you choose the wrong journal? Well, choosing the wrong journal can significantly delay your publication timeline and reduce your work's visibility and even harm your academic reputation. But the good news is that with the right approach and tools, you can dramatically increase your chances of finding the perfect journal match. And that's what we're going to deal with in this video. Over the years, I've developed a process that I recommend to my PhD students and the emerging researchers I mentor. And these are the steps, the 8 steps that we are going to cover in this video. We'll start with defining the research scope and audience, identify must-have criteria, using journal selection tools, checking institutional and national requirements, verify the journal legitimacy, research the journal's reputation and metrics, explore article processing charges, and then to make it a collaborative decision. Now, at this point, you can take a screenshot of these steps, or you can also go and find the link to the full blog post in the description box below this video. The very first step is to define the research scope and the audience. Before diving into the journal databases and going down rabbit holes, because finding a journal is the ideal task that can take you easily down rabbit holes. And this whole process of going through the 8 steps can easily take you 4 hours if you do it properly. However, it doesn't have to be 4 hours every time. So do work smart and make notes as you go along. So before diving into your journal databases, take a step back and clearly define your research discipline, the sub-disciplines that you form part of. Who's your target audience? What's your paper like? Is it clinicians that's going to read it, clinical academics, researchers, policymakers? The geographical scope of your findings, and whether your work is theoretical, empirical, applied. If you're uncertain about these things, have a chat with your favorite chatbot. And of course, you can always involve your supervisor and your collaborators as well. Step 2 is to identify your must-have criteria. This is a checklist of non-negotiable factors. And everything on the list in front of you, I won't add to those non-negotiable factors. I would have a discussion with collaborators or your supervisors about these. Ask them, how important is it to submit to a journal with a high impact factor? Does it have to be open access? The publication timeline. So some journals have much faster review processes than others. Some charge article processing fees, and you may have budget constraints. And you can also discuss the scope and the alignment with your research area with them. These are important things to discuss and also to agree upon, because in certain circumstances, a high impact factor is absolutely crucial. While some people may say, if you don't have the budget, don't publish open access, or maybe you've got time and you don't have to worry about a long publication timeline. So I would definitely suggest discuss these factors and see which of these are really important. Of course, the first prize is to have a brilliant impact factor, an open access journal with a very fast publication timeline that doesn't even ask any article processing charges. I mean, that will be absolutely first prize. But it may be difficult to get into a journal of that kind. So I would definitely suggest see what your collaborators, your co-authors, and your supervisors feel. Which of these are the most important? Which should you prioritize? And then you have enough of the background information so that you can go on to step 3. Step 3 is about using journal selection tools strategically. So instead of going manually and starting to wade through loads and loads of journals, try these selection tools. Firstly, start with your reference list. The studies that you've referenced in your own project, go to your reference list and see which journals were they published in. If researchers in your field are publishing similar work in specific journals, these venues likely welcome your type of research. So this approach also helps you understand what the publication patterns are and the preferences within your research community and your field. Then once you have a shortlist, go to your general journal finders and see if you can add to that list. Some of these journal finders allows you to put an abstract in, and then they give some suggestions for appropriate journals, and it's really a good way to find quite a few options that may be appropriate for your research. Now I'm going to leave a link to the full blog post, and in that blog post you've got the links to each of these journal finders. So Elsevier's journal finder, Wiley's got one, Springer, and Taylor and Francis. Then there's also an open access directory, the directory of open access journals, and there you can search for open access journals in your field. And then there's a researcher.life journal finder, another tool that includes impact metrics and submission guidelines. So that's also a very, very useful tool to use. Other specialized tools are the journal guide, Jane, and also the Inago journal finder. So also two additional very good tools to use. Step 4 involves checking your institutional or national requirements. So before finalizing your journal choice, investigate whether your institution or country maintains a list of accredited or preferred journals. Many universities have specific requirements for journals that count towards promotion or research assessment exercises. And some countries maintain national lists of recognized publications that they use for funding or evaluation purposes. I'd say consult with your supervisor or mentor because they'll be familiar with the institutional preferences and field-specific expectations. And this conversation is quite important because you may be discovering incompatibility issues after submission, and that's not a nice conversation to have then. Step 5 involves verifying the journal's legitimacy. Early in my academic career, I encountered what appeared to be the perfect journal for my research. The peer review process was completed in record time with minimal corrections required. We paid the article processing charges, and I received a congratulations email within days stating that my paper has now been published. However, when I requested a copy of my published work, the publisher demanded an additional fee, which was quite high. And it turned out that this publisher had deliberately mimicked a legitimate, well-established journal in the same field, and that led us astray. And this was clearly a predatory journal. No academic library subscribed to this journal, and the full text article is still inaccessible to this day. It only appears as a listing on a table of contents, and it doesn't serve any scholarly purpose. So unfortunately, the academic publishing landscape includes these predatory journals, and they exploit us as researchers. Therefore, the World Association of Medical Editors came up with an initiative that offers practical recommendations that include a set of questions authors should ask when choosing the right journal for their publication. And that's where the thinkchecksubmit.org website comes in. I urge you to go on there and go and play around and see what's on there. It's really helpful. But in summary, there are red flags to watch out for when you are being aware of these predatory journals. If you receive excessive solicitation emails with flattering language, those are often predatory journals. Unclear or missing peer review processes, editorial boards with fake, unrelated expertise, unrealistic promises of rapid publication. I mean, how many times don't we receive these emails that said they'll publish within a day or within a week? And poor website quality with spelling errors and a lack of contact information. And I'll also say, once you've found a journal, if you're uncertain whether it's a predatory journal or not, have a look at if it appears on Beall's list. I know there's sometimes criticism of Beall's list, as some people feel that there's sometimes legitimate journals that's just not yet popular that appears on there. But overall, it is really good and contains predatory publishers mainly. You can also have a look and see if your chosen journal or the one that you are worried about, if it features on other journal indexes or databases, like is it ISI accredited, is it on the Scopus list, does it appear on recognized databases? Step 6 involves the research of the journal's reputation and metrics. This is where you have your short list of journals, you know they're not predatory, and you want to check out what's the journal's reputation and the metrics associated with it. Remember, in an earlier step, you were going to decide how important the impact factor is, and this is where you are going to figure out what is it. These 3, 5, 7 journals that you've shortlisted, what are the impact factors and other reputation metrics? So, firstly, journal metrics. Usually, all this information appears on the journal's website. Have a look at the impact factor via Web of Science, the site score if you go via Scopus, the H-index and quartile rankings, and they sometimes also have article influence scores. Then look at assess the editorial quality, who's on the editorial board, and what are their expertise, any recent publication quality and topics and type of things that they publish, the author guidelines, is it clear, is it comprehensive? And of course, you don't have to do an in-depth review of all this, don't spend hours on it, just get a feel for the journal metrics and the editorial quality. Then you can also go on to SciRef. Now, SciRef is almost like a Hello Peter for journals. On SciRef, they show the actual publication timelines. Do know that people who post on SciRef, some of them may be the ones that also got rejected, and it may have nothing to do with the journal. It may have only to do with the fact that they rejected and maybe with the reviewers. Then step 7, exploring the article's processing charges. Now, the financial aspect of publication deserves a bit of careful consideration. Open access journals often charge APCs ranging from £500 to £5,000 or more. However, the holy grail is finding journals that publish open access content without charging APCs. And these offer the best of both worlds. They've got broad accessibility without that financial burden. And they do exist. It's just sometimes difficult to find them. So before committing to paying APCs, check if your institution has agreements with publishers for discounted APCs. Your funder covers publication costs, so see if they do. Check if you can find hybrid journals that offer both subscription and open access options. If you can't afford the open access, maybe you can submit for free in the subscription option. And then check if there's legitimate fee waivers for researchers for low to middle income countries. That brings us to step 8, to make it a collaborative decision. Even though you are the principal investigator or first author on this paper, you're the one that did all the investigations, the journals, take your shortlist to your co-authors and just run it by them. Show them your justifications for the choice of journals and just get their input as to which one to select and which order. If it gets rejected by the one, which one will you submit it to next? That's the safe way to go about it, and it's the right way to go about it. And you never know, they may know something about the journal that you don't, and that may influence the decision-making process. Here's a tip that will save yourself some time in the future. Create a spreadsheet with all your journal investigations noted down. Now, it doesn't have to be so formal and colorful, and you don't have to spend hours on it. But if you're going to go through and spend 3 or 4 hours to investigate the different journals, to make a list of your top 10, I would say make sure that you keep that investigations close, because you don't want to repeat this process next week or the week after. Also, if you're doing a big umbrella research project or a PhD, you are probably going to submit 4 or 5 publications somewhere in the next few years. And some of them are going to be rejected the first time, and you're going to have to find a second best journal on the list to submit to. So have your order of your favorites sorted out, um, and make a few notes of which one have article processing fees, what do their metrics look like, what did you find when you did your research. Your future self will definitely thank you for this. Let's go through a few frequently asked questions. Firstly, should I contact the editors if I'm unsure about scope fit? And the answer is absolutely yes. If genuine uncertainty exists after thoroughly reading through the author guidelines and examining some of the recent publications in that journal, I would say a brief professional email is warranted. Just ask whether your research falls within the journal scope, and that can really save everyone time. However, don't use this as a substitute for doing your homework. Editors appreciate authors who've already researched their journal's focus, and a lot of information is usually available on their website. How long should I wait before considering alternative journals? Most journals provide estimated review timelines, and if you haven't heard back within their stated timeframe, plus let's say 30 days, I would say a polite inquiry is appropriate. Consider alternative journals if the delay exceeds reasonable expectations for your field. But do withdraw your paper from the current journal before sending it to the next, though. How can I handle conflicting reviewer comments about journal suitability? So let's say you've submitted your journal and one reviewer feels that it should be in this journal and the other one feels that it may be suited to another. So if peer reviewers suggest different journals, analyze their reasoning carefully. Sometimes this indicates that your work bridges multiple fields, and you may have to consider an interdisciplinary journal or focus on your narrative on a chosen audience to make it better fit a specific audience. Journal selection doesn't have to be a daunting process. I know sometimes we feel like we don't know where to start. Your next step will be to set out a 2 or 3 hour period in your calendar and then go through the 8 steps described in this video, or if you prefer text, find the link in the description box below this video to the full blog post. And do your research, make proper notes so that you can use this research that you've put together over the next 5 years. And you have your list of ideal journals that fits the scope of your research, and you know where to send your precious papers. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, share it with a friend to make their life easier as well. And if you need more support, join the Research Mastermind Success Academy. It's a membership for PhD students to help you work at the pace of your ambition without sacrificing your sanity. Go and check it out.